Hello, everyone. Welcome to Zippi Live, my weekly vlog. And this week, I really am very happy to present to you a summary of an article that was on the front page of Newsweek this week, which asked the question if we need to put a warning label on our food. And the reason why I found this article important enough to actually dedicate a whole live to this program is because the journalist Adam Piori talks about the things that me and my colleagues have been talking about for years now. And what he opens the article saying that it's never been so dangerous to be obese, because people who are suffering from obesity have a threefold chance of being hospitalized from COVID. And if they have any other metabolic diseases like diabetes or heart disease or, hypertension, that the chances of them being hospitalized due to COVID are sixfold. And the chances, God forbid, of dying are 12-fold, which means that basically what happened was COVID brought out really the real big problems and health problems and complications, that the fact that most of the adult population in the US is metabolically sick. And so what I like so much about this Newsweek article is that it talks about the fact that it's not just what's in the food. It's not just about how much fat there is or how many proteins there are or how much sugar there is even. It's also about what has been done to the food, what Robert Lustig has been talking about for years now. And it talks about the fact that ultra-processed foods, first of all, let's talk about processing foods. Most of the foods that we eat today are processed in some way or another. But the question is, how much are they processed? Because if you're going to take, for example, milk, okay? Milk is pasteurized. That's a process. The milk has been processed. It's pasteurized so that it won't have harmful bacteria in it, and so that the shelf life will be a little longer. So instead of it lasting a day or two, it can last a week or 10 days or whatever it is. But if you take milk and you just pull it apart into its different, like the milk solids and the milk proteins and this and that, and then put it back together in something called, here in Israel, we have it called milky, like this, this chocolate pudding with whipped cream on top. It has very little, it's not like anything that we can find in nature. It's not like any kind of dairy product that we can find in nature. So what we're talking about here is the ultra-processed foods, which basically means that they took the ingredients of the foods or the nutrients of the foods, pulled them apart, left some out, put some back in, added a whole bunch of other stuff in, like all kinds of emulsifiers and taste, and flavors and stuff like that, and made something that doesn't really exist in natural foods. And the biggest problem is now the food industry has found that when they ultra process the food, they can very specifically target our brains and the reward centers of our brains so that we'll keep coming back for more. And what's even more problematic than the sugar, and this is something that I really like that Adam Piori, the journalist who wrote this, talks about, is the grains, that the processed grains that is put in almost every food in the supermarket. That's the starches and the different flours. And it really doesn't matter if it has gluten in it or it doesn't, because what happens is when you take a whole grain that's built whole and you crush it into this tiny particles called flour, and especially if you've taken out the nutritious parts of it, like the bran, the covering, right? Then what happens is that grain gets absorbed into our body already in our mouth or in our stomachs. And basically, we're starving the bacteria that come later on in our gut that are so critical for our health. They need food too, and we're not feeding them properly. And this is causing inflammation, an autoimmune disease, and a whole host of diseases that are really problematic. The statistics are that 88% of the adult population has some kind of metabolic disease or health condition, which is like horrendous. And of course, we have to talk about the children and the teenagers who are becoming obese and sick with fatty liver disease and becoming pre-diabetic. And this is from the hyper-processed foods that's so prevalent in our food culture and in our supermarkets today. And they quote Nicola Vina, who is one of the lead researchers in food addiction today. And she started researching food addiction because she was actually treating and researching heroin addicts. And they were telling her that it's harder for them to quit sugar than it was for them to quit heroin. And that got her into researching food addiction. And she says that in her laboratory, mice get addicted to sugar even more than cocaine. And they really present the classic signs of addiction. And there's one study that Adam Puri talks about, which I love, which was done by Kevin Hall, who works for the National Institute of Health in the US. And he decided that he wants to prove once and for all that it doesn't matter how much the food is processed. What matters is the ingredients, the nutrients, how much vitamins and how much fat and how much sugar and how much salt and how much carbohydrates and whatever it is, and how much protein. So what he did was he took 20 volunteers and they lived in the laboratory for a month and were given their food. 10 of the volunteers got non-processed food. 10 of the volunteers got the exact same nutrients. They were calculated to get the same food as far as the nutrients were concerned and the ingredients were concerned, but they got it in processed food and they got it in non-processed food. Guess what happened? The group that ate the processed food, first of all, on average, they ate 500 calories more than the group who ate non-processed food. The second thing is that they gained on average half a kilo a week, a pound a week, which they said when they went back to eating real food, they lost it. So what we're seeing here basically is that maybe finally there's starting to become some kind of public outcry that the food industry has to become regulated, that they are responsible for our health. And they're also responsible for our food choices. Because if they are targeting our brains exactly where it's so hard for us to say no, and so hard for us to say only one, then they are also responsible for our health and for our choices. And just like big tobacco was fighting back in the 40s and 50s and 60s when it started coming out how dangerous smoking is, big food is fighting back hard. And in the article, they talk about how hard it's going to be to take on big food because we are talking about a very powerful lobby with billions and billions and billions of dollars. So what can we conclude from this article? What can we take? What's our take-home message? The little people, us, who are going to the supermarket and buying foods. First of all, don't let the food industry trick you. Learn to read the ingredients of every single food that has a label. You will be shocked because I'll give you a perfect example. Okay, here in Israel, there's a white cheese that's been sold for, I don't know, as long as, the state exists and maybe even longer. Okay, it's a white cheese that's made basically from milk, water, and salt. But then there's another cheese that's like a 5% cream cheese, right? This is 5% fat, white cheese. This is 5% fat, a cream cheese, and it comes in different flavors, like it comes with chives or with garlic and all kinds of things like that. If you read the ingredients, of that 5%, cream cheese flavored cheese, it like doesn't even it doesn't even come close. It's basically they took everything, put it apart, and put it back together again. It has in it sugar and starches and emulsifiers and flavorings and milk solids and milk proteins and milk powder, where this is just milk and salt. So I would say, if you know that in your supermarket there's a very simple cheese, take that, cut in some chives, put in some garlic and pepper and flavorings, and leave that that cream cheese flavored cheese alone. So it's not just about the junk food. It's also about what we call real food, the meats we eat. When you buy meat, do you buy a hunk of meat that looks like every shape is different? Or are you buying the ones that are like that same shape? Look at the ingredients. Are they adding to it are they adding to it soy proteins and emulsifiers or some kind of agents like to make the shelf life longer? So if the demand for these hyper processed foods goes down, if we, the public, start demanding better quality food by voting with our pocketbooks, the food industry is going to listen. Then they will pay attention. So let's be the change. Let's make sure that we buy products that are as simple as possible with as little ingredients as possible. If you're thinking of buying a cake or making a cake, make the cake. If you're thinking of buying something ready-made or making it at home, make it at home. It will always be so much healthier or less damaging than if you buy it ready-made that it was made in a factory, in a food factory. So eat real, or as real as you really, really can. And don't forget to add vegetables to your food, because that's what feeds our bacteria in our gut, right? And that way we can prevent inflammation. So eat real, read the article. I'll put the link of the article into the comments here. If you're watching this on my YouTube, well, first of all, please thank you, Nadia. Thank you very much. If you guys are interested in getting Zippi Live every single week straight into your inbox, there is a link in a comment below, or if you're watching this on my YouTube video channel, it'll be in the description. There is a link where you can sign up to get the YouTube Live every single week straight into your inbox, and then you know that you have it forever. So please like this video, give a comment, pass it on to your friends and relatives if you think that it's important to them. And I want to wish you all, including you, Nadia, a very happy day. Eat well, take care of yourselves, and let's make sure that the food industry does not pull one over on us. Love you guys. Bye-bye.